Hi everyone, welcome to Maximum Attack Rallying, and oh my goodness, what a weekend we had. Safari Rally has always had a reputation for being a tough one, but this weekend most certainly delivered on that reputation. It was an extremely difficult event. There were more punctures and mechanical dramas than I could possibly even remember, and I think pretty much everyone had some kind of issue. However, I think there is only one place we can start, and that is with Elfyn Evans. Going into the weekend, I did not expect Evans and co-driver Scott Martin to be involved in the lead battle. I thought they might take a more cautious approach with their road position and the difficult conditions. But, weren't they sensational? They kept themselves in with the front runners, and when Oyt Tanak faltered on Friday afternoon, he took the lead, and that was it, wasn't it? That was it. He was well in control. I know it's still really early in the season, but this just felt like a championship winning drive for me. It was very controlled, very measured, and he just looks so good right now, doesn't he, Evans? He looks so good. And once again, when he was under pressure, he rose to the occasion. So on Saturday morning, Kalle Rovanperä was just over 7 seconds behind, and instead of taking it easy and not taking any risks, Evans put the hammer down and extended his lead. And it was just another demonstration, just like Monte Carlo against Formeau, just like Sweden against Katsuta. It was just another demonstration that now, when the pressure's on, Evans can perform. Even with a puncture near the end of that stage, he did not lose time. He extended his gap to Rovanperä, and he just looked so in control. There were no needless risks, and it just all came together. And while others continued to falter, he was just there maintaining the gap, and he came away from the weekend with a championship lead of an incredible 36 points after just 3 rallies. As I said, I know it's early days, but there is no doubt that Evans' rivals should be concerned. He is in a very strong position already. If we look ahead from this weekend, we've got Canary Islands up next, which should suit him. Tarmac event, obviously he won't have the disadvantage of being first on the road there. So if he can get a good result there and get a solid score in Portugal, he will be in an extremely strong position. So it's just great to see. He looks very comfortable. He looks good in the car. He's, as I said, he's not letting the pressure get to him like he perhaps may have done in the past. He just all seems to be coming together. And if we look back at last year with the way Thierry Neuville started, he too got a big jump, though not as big as Neuville did. And from there, he was just able to control the season, wasn't he? So it is looking good for Evans, even though it is very early. I know lots could happen in the meantime, but he could not have asked for a better start, and he is most definitely the form driver right now. While Evans had a good weekend, the same though could not be said for his teammates. It was a very mixed weekend for Toyota overall. Sami Pajari was okay. He had a pretty solid weekend. First time obviously competing in a Rally 1 car, so we can't expect too much for him. But the more experienced Toyota drivers, not so much. I mentioned Kalle Rovanperä, who was obviously in the lead fight going into Saturday, but for him everything kind of fell apart from that point on. He had some punctures, and ultimately suspension damage hampered and blunted his charge on Saturday afternoon, and he would eventually retire on Sunday. So not a great weekend for Rovanperä, but I think we did perhaps see some better pace, so that is a step in the right direction. Unfortunately for him, unlike Evans, we're going to Tarmac next, and he did not look comfortable in Monte Carlo, so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on there and whether he is improving his relationship with those Hankook tyres. But if Rovanperä's weekend was a little bit disappointing, I think it's fair to say that Takamoto Katsuta's was heartbreaking. What a horrible end to his rally. So the Japanese driver was fighting for Super Sunday points, and he rolled out of the power stage very early on, which was just about the worst thing that can happen to a driver, isn't it? Crashing on the last stage is not good at all. He did manage to get going again. A couple of spectators appeared out of the bush and got the car back on its wheels, and they got to the end of the stage, but it was sounding very sick indeed, and he had to retire the car after the power stage because there was no way that he was going to get back to service to check into the final time control. So he didn't make it to the end, lost 4th place, I think, didn't he? So you have to feel for him, didn't you? He looked absolutely devastated at the stop line of the power stage. He looked completely distraught. He had no words, basically just sat in silence when he was asked questions. Not good. And he had a difficult weekend. You know, he was ill on Friday, wasn't it? Had food poisoning. So very, very difficult weekend indeed for him. Speaking of food poisoning, Thierry Neuville also suffered a similar fate, albeit 24 hours later. So he was ill on Saturday. So it seems that the Kenyan food did not agree with those two particular drivers, which was a shame for them. So, I mean, fair play to both of them for carrying on. It can't have been easy if they'd not had very much sleep and were feeling unwell. Neuville had a difficult weekend as well, didn't he? So he had some drive shaft issues on Friday, which resulted in time penalties, which effectively knocked him out of the lead battle. But as always, Neuville is plucky, isn't he? He is a determined young man. So he managed to finish in third place, which is a good result considering what was a pretty disastrous run, and that the transmission issues reared their head for Hyundai again. They also affected Oyt Tanak, so he finished second. He was in the lead of the rally and looked very, very comfortable on Friday, and I think he probably would have gone on to win the rally, but I think it was towards the second penultimate stage, was it, on Friday? He had a drive shaft issue as well. He ended up having to remove a drive shaft to make the car rear-wheel drive just to get through the rest of the day. And it just shows, doesn't it? It was a weird situation for Hyundai because this was the final outing for the old spec i20. They'd brought the new car to Sweden and decided to bring the old car to Kenya. They said that they'd not been able to do enough durability testing with the new car, but that seemed a bit strange to me because the old car had not proved durable enough to do Safari Rally, and as we saw, they had some problems again. So it was a weird one, wasn't it? You know, I think you could say that in the end, despite the problems, Hyundai had a good weekend. They had two cars on the podium with Tanak in second and Neuville in third. So the overall result worked out, but it was certainly a challenging event for the team. I did predict that Tanak would win. Well, I didn't predict it, did I? I predicted that Rovanperä would win, but I said I hoped before the rally that Tanak would win. And it was nice to see him fighting at the front on Friday, and it was nice to see some pace there. I hope he figures in the championship battle because he's had an up and down few years, hasn't he? So it was good to see some speed there. While Hyundai's weekend was kind of good overall in the end, that luck did not extend to Adrian Formeau, who had a pretty terrible rally all told. So he was forced out on Thursday after the first stage with an electrical problem, came back on Friday and then had suspension damage, which put him out again. The team elected for him to skip Saturday and just come back on Sunday, where he did get a little bit of a reprieve by taking maximum points for Super Sunday and the power stage. He was very quick on the power stage, so that was good. The pace is clearly there, but obviously we still have some issues in terms of finishing and mechanicals. Just finally, I want to give a shout out to M Sport. They had a difficult weekend in a way. They had some mechanical issues, and it's a very tough position for them, isn't it? They don't have a top line driver. They've got two relatively inexperienced guys in their cars, but there were some positives despite the mechanical maladies. So Gregoire Munster took his second ever fastest time on stage 15 on Saturday, so that was good, and that was a bonus for him. We found out at the end of the rally that he'd lost his grandfather on Wednesday in the build up to the event, so he was obviously struggling a little bit taking in that news, as you would expect, and was very emotional at the end of the rally. You know, so it had been a difficult weekend for him, but you know, for him to get that second fastest time is a nice step, isn't it? And it was a nice thing to happen in what must have been difficult circumstances. I also want to mention Josh McAlean. He is continuing to do what he needs to do, isn't he? You know, we couldn't expect too much from him, but this is very much building experience, and Safari is definitely a place to build experience. He did have one bonus though, which I thought was very good. On that same stage that Munster set fastest time, McAlean set the second fastest time. So for him to set a second fastest time on just his third rally in a Rally 1 car is a big step forwards, isn't it? It won't go down in history. It's one of his career moments to the wider public, but for him, I'm sure he took an immense amount of satisfaction from that. So that was very good indeed. I think the only other thing worth touching on is just the stage end interviews. So we had this boycott, didn't we, that I talked about in my video last Thursday, which if you haven't watched already, I suggest you do so. I noticed at the end of the event that seemed to kind of fall away, and that they did speak to the media a bit more at the end of the power stage, which I kind of get. Obviously, they wanted to say their thank yous to various people and to the fans who did deserve it, because obviously there's lots and lots of fans. The crowds in the power stage were ridiculous. So it was nice to see them at least saying thank you, and more importantly, I think thanking fans around the world for their support in light of the boycott. I think they've had a lot of support online from fans for their decision not to talk to people. I know a couple of the drivers mentioned that, and it's going to be interesting, isn't it, to see how that situation develops with this planned meeting after the rally with the FIA. So we will see what happens there, and if we get any kind of statements or decisions on these regulations. I think that we should wrap it up there. It was a very exciting weekend. I do want you to let me know in the comments below what your favourite moments were from this weekend's rally, who you thought did well, who you thought did badly, and just general safari chit chat, I suppose. I do like reading your comments and engaging with you guys, so do let me know your thoughts below. As always, do make sure you follow me over on socials and like and subscribe, and I will see you again next time.